So in this lesson, we discuss light filters. Light filters are shaders that can modify lights based on different factors. We have four different light filters in Arnold for Cinema 4D: barn door, gobo, light blocker, and light decay. The way these filters work is you create the filter from your material manager. So create, menu, Arnold, light filters. You can see our four light filters here. After you create a light filter, you can select your light. Under the Detail tab. You can assign your filter to the light by adding it to this light filters list. One quick note before going through the filters is the fact that you can't assign all the filters to every light type. For example, a barn door filter would never work with a distant light. So keep that in mind. If a filter didn't work with your light, that is because they are just not compatible. The first light filter I want to talk about is the barn door. So let's create a barn door filter. Now select the spotlight, go to the Detail tab and assign the barn door filter to the light filters list. And let's run the IPR and open up the barn door filter itself. So using barn door, you can control the shape of the light beam. You have four barn door flaps: top, bottom, left, and right. Each one has three parameters. The first two adjust the position of the flaps, and the third one controls the softness of the edges. Now, as we have our IPR running, let's adjust the top right and the top left. And as I do so, you can see how we are basically changing the circular shape of our spotlight. And by adjusting the top edge parameter, you can soften the edges. We have the same set of parameters for bottom, left, and right. Let me just adjust these parameters to get something a bit nicer. There you go. You can shape your lights using barn door filter. The next filter type is gobo. First of all, let's delete the barn door filter from the list and go to the Create menu, Arnold, Light Filters, and add a gobo filter. Like barn door filter, this filter can exclusively be applied to this spotlight. Gobo is a physical stencil which placed in front of the light and is used to control the shape of the emitted light. Let me show you how it works. Select the light and go to the Detail tab and assign the gobo filter. The first thing to do is to define the slide map. In order to do that, let's open the network editor for the gobo filter. Press Ctrl Tab and search for image node. And let's use this shutter texture here and connect it to the slide map. Now, if you take a look at the IPR, you can see we basically projected that image through that spotlight. We can adjust the spotlight's exposure to see the effect a bit better. In the gobo filter itself, we have the filter mode. You can use different modes to combine the light output and the image you have defined for your gobo. By default, it's on blend. You also have replace, add, sub, and mix. Then there is density. By increasing it, you are letting less light to go through the gobo and making the overall effect darker. Then we have offset, which allows you to offset the direction of the slide map and move it around. We got the rotation, which allows you to rotate the map. We have S and T scales, which you can use to have smaller or bigger texture or have more or less repetition. As I increase this value, you can see the changes. And as I increase it, you can see the texture is occupying a very small portion of the light. That is because our wrap mode on S&T, which control how a 2D texture is repeated, is set to clamp. Let's change the mode to periodic for both of them, and the texture should repeat itself just fine. We also have this kind of black clamp, mirror, and file modes. Let's set all the values to their default and try adding an atmosphere volume to the environment. And now you can see how the atmosphere is being affected by that gobo filter as well. Now we can delete the gobo filter and clear the atmosphere as well, and adjust the spotlight's exposure. Now the next one is light blocker. So let's go to the create menu, Arnold, light filters, and create a light blocker and assign it to the spotlight. Now you can assign this filter to area lights as well. It's very simple, but very, very useful. Basically, it blocks lights in certain parts. Let's open the light filter and increase its density to about 1 and change the geometry to sphere. So basically, if you take a look at the render, there is a sphere, and inside this sphere, the light will be blocked. I can change this sphere to a box, and you have a bunch of other options, or you can simply check this use geometry option. And as soon as I do that, we get this new light blocker geometry in our scene, where you can define the shape of the blocker filter and move it around in the scene and block the light wherever you want. In this case, let's say for artistic reasons, I want to block the top part of the chair. I can move my light blocker geo to make sure the light wouldn't affect that part of the chair. Now the light blocker geometry can be scaled and moved and rotate around, and a few extra controls to soften its edges. And this is one of my favorite lighting tools in Arnold, which is really, really underappreciated. It gives you a lot of control to direct your lighting exactly the way you want. Let's delete the light blocker filter from the list. Finally, we have light decay filter. Now, lights in Arnold, as you know, use physically based correct falloff. Light decay allows you to adjust the light falloff. So let's create a light decay filter and assign it to our spotlight. And let me get out of the camera and move it a bit so we can see the whole thing a bit better. And we need to add an atmosphere volume to the environment as well to understand this light filter better. Now open up the light decay filter. You have two sets of parameters, near attenuation and far attenuation. Using near attenuation, you can define where the light fades in and how, and using far attenuation, you can define where and how the light fades out. Let's enable my near attenuation, and the first one is the near start. This is the distance at which the light begins to fade in. Near end is the distance at which the light reaches its full intensity. Let's set the near start to 150 centimeters. So 150 centimeters from the light source, the light starts to fade in. And let's set the near end to 170 centimeters. So 170 centimeters from the light source, the light has reached its full intensity. If we enable far attenuation, now by doing so, we have a black render because our far start and end are set to 0. So the light is fading out immediately. Let's set the far start to 350 centimeters and the far end to 450 centimeters. So basically 350 centimeters from the light source, the light starts to fade out, and 450 centimeters from the light source, the light has faded out completely. So those were the light filters in Arnold. See you in the next one.